Oilers, you got a great offense with Connor McDavid. So I have them sweeping them.
Yeah, well, I don't think you heard my point. The San Francisco Giants have 3 more in the 2010s than the Rangers have in their entire history. So, yeah.
It's hard to get back and to get back-to-back wins, and I don't see the Lightning doing it here, so I have them losing to the Hurricanes in 6.
We don't talk about the 2010s because the 2010s had the Astros, and if the Astros didn't happen, the Yankees would have won in 2017 with the Dodgers.
He was close to Frank Reich, and they want Frank Reich back, so that's what they got. It's their discount Frank Reich.
Kaprizov and the rest of this crew, Jordan Greenway, who doesn't get enough props. He definitely is somebody who needs to be mentioned more.
Hi, this is Julie Dobbs. You're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week. Today we're going to talk about just free agency so far because there are some big names like Nazem Kadri and John Klingberg. Those are just a few that come to mind. But it was a wild free agency in the NHL so far, with Johnny Gaudreau leaving Calgary to go to the Columbus Blue Jackets for less money. And Calgary also traded Tkachuk to the Panthers, and they got Huberdeau back with a bunch of other players. So it looks like also the Panthers lost. Oh, shoot. I just had his name pulled up. Claude Giroux, as he signed with Ottawa, and I know they traded for him last year. So the Panthers looked really good, and it looked like they lost a lot of key players this offseason. How do you feel about the Panthers right now, Austin?
The trading of Mackenzie Weegar in the Tkachuk trade really concerns me because Weegar's a very underrated defenseman, and with the injuries that they had on defense last year and the year prior, I don't know if trading a defenseman is the right move. Tkachuk is a good player. I don't know if he's better than Huberdeau, though. I know Huberdeau is going to be a free agent, same with Weegar after this season, so that's why they made the deal. But I definitely think the Panthers lost this trade, and I'm kind of concerned about them moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And then also, goalie moves. Darcy Kemper left Colorado and signed with the Capitals. And then Jack Campbell left Toronto and signed with Edmonton for a huge deal with an average of $5 million. So I feel Capitals got a nice goalie in Kemper. That's something they've struggled with this year. And Kemper played very well in the playoffs. I'm not sure. I'm looking at just the averages around 5 million as well, just a little bit more than Jack Campbell. So I'm very interested to see how he does next season because Capitals defense is not as good as the Colorado defense. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. John Carlson, though, is a great defender for Washington, and they definitely have a good system over there, but it's definitely a worse situation. And then for Jack Campbell, we'll see how he adjusts. He did not play particularly well during the playoffs this past season. He struggled, and now he's going to an Edmonton team that has a worse defense than the Maple Leafs, but it is a team that moved past the first round, a team that made it to the Western Conference Finals, and one that has two of the best players in the world with Draisaitl and obviously McDavid. So I understand the move. And Mike Smith struggled in the playoffs as well, so the Oilers needed probably to move on. We'll see how it works out though, because the Oilers have been very inconsistent come playoff time, besides this last season.
Yeah, and they've really needed a goalie, so them signing Jack Campbell surprised me, but I understand why they were doing it. Jack Campbell seemed like the best option that they could do, and that's why, to me, it seems like a big contract to Jack Campbell, who, as you said, struggled. But so did Mike Smith because it's a 5-year deal, and if I'm correct, the max almost in like hockey is like 10 million. Or is
I
there?
wouldn't say it's a little bit higher than that, but
Okay.
10 million is a lot of money per hockey standards. I'll say that.
So I'm thinking like 5 million is not too much, but it's It's pretty much a lot, I think, which is why I don't feel I would give 5 million to Jack Campbell. I can understand giving it to Kemper after the season he just did. So, do you agree with me on like the 5 million? That's not a steep price, depending on Jack Campbell and how you view him.
It depends on how he plays. Um, I don't know necessarily if he deserved the money. There's arguments on both sides of the coin. It really is going to come down to how he plays in Edmonton.
Yeah, and now just a few more names we'll talk about is as I scroll through this list, we have Andre Palat, huge Tampa Bay Lightning, and there were rumors that the Tampa Bay were looking to move him, and which is what inevitably happened. And I'm very intrigued to see how he does with the Devils. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, the Devils are building a good team. They just have to put everything. Uh, they just have to coordinate everything together. They have good talent. It's just the talent hasn't played well uh, in the past couple seasons, and so they really have to reform now. I think they've ran out of excuses for not making the playoffs or at least getting close to the playoffs. I know the East is tough, but they weren't even contending last year for a playoff spot, and they should be this season with all the moves they made.
Yeah, and then another thing that surprised me was Claude Giroux signing with Ottawa. How surprised were you by that?
I wasn't as surprised because I knew it was going to happen. It seemed inevitable looking at reports and stuff like that. Ottawa's another team that's getting better. I thought they were going to be much better last season than they were. They obviously also traded the previous goalie for
Matt
Matt
Murray
Murray. Yeah, Matt Murray. Uh,
to Toronto.
yeah, to Toronto for a bag of chips.
Yeah, and they
And they
got
also
Cam Talbot.
yes, they did. So they're improving, and they're another team running out of excuses to not contend for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and so a lot of goalie moves, especially Cam Talbot. I know that was the next thing I was going to bring up, so that's why I interrupted you. So I'm surprised that I understand why the Wild did it because they're definitely in cap crunch. They're they got to move, and they already signed Fleury, which is a good move for them. But I understand why they traded Talbot, but I think they will miss it, especially when if something happens to Fleury during the middle of the season.
Yeah, I don't think Fleury's going to get hurt. He's been consistent his entire career, healthy wise, but I think that he'll perform much better than he did in the playoffs last year. And he wasn't even all that bad. It was just a Blues team that was inspired, and the Wild struggled defensively. So I think they'll be better. They just have to make sure that Kaprizov and everyone stays healthy, and they can continue on a good path.
And now we'll talk about Burakovsky, signed with Seattle, another team making moves. It's their second season, but any now I mentioned Burakovsky because he played well in the playoffs, but Kadri played very well in the playoffs, and he is still without a contract. He's one of the big names, and then I see John Klingberg without a contract. I'm really surprised. I know the Stars were linked to Klingberg and they're willing to reconcile, but they made moves where it seems like they took up the money that they would have needed to sign Klingberg. So I'm surprised Klingberg has been on the market for so long. What do you think?
Yeah, Klingberg being on the market for this long is definitely concerning, and the fact that I mean, do you see guys like Brent Burns getting traded? He was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes, if I'm right, and some other good defensemen are moving around. So he is losing spots, but in hockey, there's a lot of guys that like to wait to make moves. So we'll see whether or not other moves will be made if the Stars pick him up. If not, but I wouldn't be that surprised if there was a big move moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And then I feel the same way about Kadri because he played incredible, and I think he should have a high market, but maybe he's figuring out because I know he is. There were rumors that he was going to try to stay in Colorado, but they have a lot to worry about for next year and their cap space.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen. There's still plenty of free agency left, a lot of big names, like you mentioned, Kadri and everyone else. So a lot of teams need to adjust how they're going to play. And again, the Bruins, Bergeron may retire, he may not retire. That's going to be huge, whether or not they're even going to have the chance to be good to contend for a cup again. So a lot of decision needs to be made, and I mean, your team Dallas still needs to make moves to help out their star young goaltender Jake Ottinger. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. And that's all we got for now. We just want to do, as we've talked about and you said, Austin, there's a lot of moves that still need to be made, should be made for a lot of teams, including both of our teams. So this is just NHL free agency so far. And let us know what you think. And we appreciate you listening to Outsiders Opinions.